It's recording. So welcome to CBOR working group meeting. Yeah, this is Francesca and Jim is my co-chair. Some useful links, the mailing list and the Jabber, please join, and Etherpad for minute taking. Thank you, Michael, for taking the minutes. And WebEx information, because it's always good to have them somewhere. This is an official IETF meeting, so the note will apply. If you haven't, please take a moment to read and understand. And if you have any question, feel free to ask me or Jim or anybody around. As a reminder, minutes are taken, this meeting is recorded, and the presence is logged. Yes, please go into the Etherpad and write your name at the end of the Etherpad as a virtual blue sheet. This is our agenda for today. So we are in the introduction part right now, and then we will move over to working group documents, where Carsten will talk about the CBOR BIS status. And we have a couple more topics in the other part. So we want to talk about the date and time tag document. So I haven't seen Mike in the call. He had asked for time. So Carsten, I know that there's been some discussion in the mailing list. We'll continue that here. And if time allows, we'll talk about the CDDL freezer document, or how to continue working on CDDL. Some time for wrap up. So this is a working group status update. So we've had 6 interims since IETF 106. So we are pretty used to having virtual interims, and we think they're very useful, and we would like to see more participation. So for whoever is here who has never been to a CBOR working group interim before, please do join. They only take 1 hour, often less than that. And we discuss topics that pop up in the mailing list, and we think, yeah, it's a check. You can find minutes and whenever there were slides for those meetings at this link. And yes, since IETF 106, we've had the CBOR rate tags and CBOR sequence that were published. So congratulations to the working group and the authors for that. And also, excuse me, we've been working on the 7049. So the working group last call ended the 23rd of March. There was a couple of issues that were open, and we're still looking for reviews from implementers. There was some action points from the last interim to read carefully and review the text that was implemented to close issue 164 and 165. And I'm sure Carsten will go more into detail for that. The update of, the status update of the document. And yes, just scheduling. We will continue on having these interims on the same time slot, which is this one, Wednesday between 5 and 6 p.m. CST, every 2 weeks from now until the 14th of July. And if we feel like we don't have topic to discuss, the meeting will be cancelled, but otherwise we will be having the meeting. And I didn't ask, but is there any agenda bashing? If not, then we can move to Carsten. My recording, my sharing. And I will give you the ball. Here you go. I hope Carsten is back. Otherwise, I was too quick with the introduction. Here we are.
Takes him a long time to get his coffee.
No, actually, the problem is that the Chrome application chooser takes some polynomial time, quadratic or cubic, or I don't know, by the number of applications you have open, or by the number of application windows. So it takes me about 20 seconds to actually select an application I want to share. And the fun part is during those 20 seconds, I cannot talk. So that was the gap you just experienced. Can people hear me at all?
Hear you. Yes.
Good. Okay. So I'm not seeing Mike Jones at this point in time, but he might still be joining. So I have a gap in my slides for Mike to chime in. Okay, so I want to talk about three things: the CBOR status, the time tag, and if we have time, the CDDL freezer. And I think we will have time. I think the whole meeting will be pretty short. So we did a working group last call, and everybody seems to be happy, or everybody seems to be sleeping, or everybody seems to be busy with realigning the world with COVID-19, which is my problem right now, because we have this little university to run here. Yeah, so we are getting some comments from implementers, so it has helped to alert some of them, but this is coming in slowly. So I think we just have to plan for a little bit more time for more comments to come in. And one other comment came in like 20 minutes ago, so I think it is working. So let me just quickly talk through the three issues we have right now on the repository. So one observation is that the text currently says that not all implementations might do 64-bit integers, but it doesn't warn people that the same might be true about 1+8 tags, so tags with a 64-bit tag number. And that's probably a very small piece of text that needs to be added, but I agree this should be added. And while we were discussing this, there also was the observation that we are not going to get into 1+8 land very soon, because the designated expert can control the allocations in 1+2 and 1+4 land. Now, unfortunately, the answer is no to that question, because 1+2 and 1+4 are specification required. So the designated expert cannot provide any back pressure there. Interestingly, Ayana has asked me about allocations in those spaces as well, just to make sure that they are doing everything right. But I don't have the power of a designated expert there, so I don't have the power to push back. And that is the result of discussions we have had, and I'm a little bit in the rough on those discussions. So of course I'm clinging to every opportunity to bring this up again. So do we want to put a little bit more control over the 1+2 allocations, maybe at least, than we have at the moment?
Carsten, it just says specification required and first come, first serve?
It's first come, first serve. So officially the designated expert is not in the loop. Any comments, any opinions on this?
I think I may agree with you that I'm not necessarily happy on that.
So then what you would like to have is 1+2 under expert review, or both of them?
Let me just show the text that is currently in the draft. So 0 to 23 are standards action, 24 to 255 are specification required, and everything else is first come, first served. And I think we should just put the 1+2, which is 256 to 65,535, to expert review.
I kind of remember this discussion, but like I know we talked about this. I cannot remember right now. How did we decide that those would be first come, first served? So I think I need to go look at the minutes again. But yeah, personally, chair hat off. I would also, I think it would make sense to have 1+2 into expert review.
We also could do something like keep the 1+2 open to first come, first serve, but only part of it. So we could say the first half, 4711 is just a syntactic meta variable here. Part of the 1+2 would be expert review, and the rest of the 1+2 together with the 1+4 and 1+8 would be FCFS. So the remaining question is what is a good value for 4711?
Okay, if nobody in the meeting has opinion about this, I suggest I take the action point to look in the minutes, and we bring the discussion back to the mailing list, and we take a decision really quickly because we don't want to delay this, obviously, but we want to give everybody a chance to give their opinion. But yeah, my personal feeling is that, yeah, it would make sense to have this in expert review. I'm not sure about half of these expert review, half of these first come, first serve, because then it's very one has to choose where do you split it, right? What is first come, first serve, and what is expert review? It's very arbitrary. That's the word I was looking for.
Yes, but I mean, if you don't know what to do, giving half to one and giving half to the other is kind of the default option. So I could imagine that that's a sensible thing to do.
Yeah, that could make everybody happy, but yeah, and let's bring it to the main list unless there is more comments.
Francesca, this is Ira. I just wanted to chime in and say I also strongly prefer that at least part of the 1+2 range is expert review. Otherwise, we're not using expert review, which doesn't make any sense at all. And I don't care whether it's half or what. A goodly amount, say several thousand at least, ought to be expert review, it seems to me.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and as I said, there will be a few words added, just pointing out that people who do not do 64-bit integers probably won't do 1+8 tags. Issue 176. That's really an implementer consideration, which I never have thought about because I don't need it in my implementation. Emil said that maybe we should reserve one tag number for no tag. So in an implementation where you just have an integer where you write the tag number that applies to something, you can write that, you can store this special value, which if we had thought about it in 2013 might have been 0, but we didn't. So it probably will be something else like 666 right now. So when you hand that up in a data structure, it means this item does not have a tag. Now, Jim noted that actually this doesn't quite help an implementation because there also might be multiple tags. So you already have to have a way to deal with multiple tags. But I still can imagine implementations where it's just nice to have a tag number where we know that that's never going to be actually used.
So is this to go on the wire, or is this something as a convenience for internal implementations?
It's implementation, and the hard part of this is to properly say what happens when it's on the wire, because it's not supposed to be on the wire. But an attacker might still put it there.
So there's no advantage to making it short.
No.
So that's a good point. And I would say if it shows up on the wire, then it should be silently ignored.
Yeah, but we cannot do this retroactively to existing implementations. So there will always be some implementations who will treat the presence of this tag differently from the absence of the tag. And that might be used by an attacker in some weird way.
What would they do with a tag they just didn't recognize then?
Well, probably reject the whole thing.
Well, that may be appropriate if it wanders onto the wire then. And that actually also would identify very quickly that some guy is leaking because they wouldn't interoperate, right?
Yeah, so I'm not concerned with interoperability. I'm concerned with possible avenues where you have multiple entities interpreting the same CBOR and they come to different conclusions as to what it is. And that's the security consideration for a tag like this, I think. So none of this actually has to go into 7049 bis. This can be just a tag registration. But I think we still want to do this right if we handle this issue that has been raised.
What you wrote in the parentheses here can be done outside of / in parallel to makes sense to me. Why would we need this in the document right now?
Well, of course, it's more prominent for implementers if it's in the document. So Alexei just argued that it would be better to incorporate the no tag now. But yeah, we're not supposed to invent new stuff in internet standard, and this is not exactly an interoperability problem we are replying to here. So Michael also thinks we should do it now. Yeah, I hope the ISG
I agree, Karsten.
Go ahead.
Sorry. I just I agree that it should be done now, and we should put it in 7049 and this, and try not to have an interoperability problem that we could clarify and close.
To answer Alexei's Jabber question, whether we have to argue about this for 6 months, I hope not. But it would be the first thing we actually change in the document that is not just based on interoperability considerations. But I hope we can get away with that in the ISG.
Maybe our D can give us a hint.
If we define this, I would expect that this would be used by some of the people who were, I mean, there was a where somebody wanted this is a tag to say that this field is not present, and I'd be willing to bet that the no tag field would be used for that purpose.
Yeah. So yeah, let's take this to the list. But I think the sense I get is it's worth spending the effort doing this now. And I mean, we're waiting for new input, for more input anyway. So we might want to do this now. Okay. If no other. Oh, the Etherpad writer understood Jim saying something different from what I just heard. So, Jim, do you want to amplify your point?
Jim is the Etherpad writer, so he wrote down what he thought he said.
Okay. Yeah, okay. We have null for that, and undefined, and so on. I don't think that
So Jim, would the no tag be followed by a CBOR null?
I think that's what he was doing, but I'm not positive. I was never completely clear what he thought he was going to do with that no tag. It was some way that he wanted to deal with this thing is not present. So that tag followed by null would be certainly one way to do it. He didn't want to use null or undefined because that was not quite clear. How would you say that the null is not present? If null is an option, how do you say that null is not present?
It's the meaning of null that it's not present.
I was kind of going into semantics.
Okay. Maybe you can write a slightly longer exposition of your thoughts of the mailing list, so I get a better chance at understanding it.
Yeah, I'm totally willing to do that.
Yeah, and one problem, of course, we have is that these are all GitHub issues at the moment, and we have the usual problem of connecting the GitHub issue commenter to any discussion that is going on the mailing list. But yeah, I think we know how to do this. We just should not forget doing it.
Yeah, this is saying we have this. Sorry for being late. We have this in other working groups where basically all the notifications go to the lists. It can be spammy if there are meetings and you work at stuff, but again, that might be useful.
I don't think we need to do that yet. I can think about that, but
Yeah, I also prefer being explicit.
We can
about
bring to
that.
the list what like, I mean, for editorial issues or things like that, it doesn't need to spam the mailing list.
Yeah, that requires discipline, and we all not always have that. So I don't know.
But I think this issue needs to be discussed in the mailing list for sure. So,
Okay.
so to summarize, what I've heard is many people are supporting doing this, the draft, like adding this to the draft right now. But we need to discuss more on how this is used, and we'll bring that to the mailing list. Okay.
Thank you. So the issue that came in half an hour ago, or maybe 35 minutes ago, was about the security considerations about hashes. It's well known that an attacker can turn an O1 hash into an ON hash if they know how the hash is implemented. And the security considerations currently only mention one mitigation strategy, and of course it should mention that there are other mitigation strategies. So I think that's a no-brainer to add this to the security considerations. It's implementation advice, and of course we can expand implementation advice indefinitely, but maybe pointing to the strategy Java uses here is a good idea. So that's actually all I have on CBOR Biz at the moment.
So we're very close to be done, I like to say. Carsten, you already mentioned that we've gotten very few comments from Working Group Lascaux, and that we are you reaching out to implementers, or have you reached out to implementers?
I have, and I still can expand that. So the more I do this, the more spammy it gets, because I'm engaging more and more venues that really aren't quite meant for this, but where it's probably not too much of an etiquette violation to go ahead and ask for help. But I also think that some people will need a week or two to actually react. I did some of them last weekend, so maybe we should plan a little bit more time.
Okay, so what? So anyway, you needed to submit a new version, correct?
Yes.
Yes. So what time plan should we have? Do you want to include this also in the new version, or editorial comments, etc.?
When is our next interim?
In 2 weeks.
In two weeks.
Yeah.
So maybe the plan should be to submit the next version in 10 days. So we have still time to read this.
Yeah, we can include in that whatever comes out of discussion about the tag as well. Yeah. Make new version in 10 days and keep, I mean, then we wait, then we ask for more reviews from implementers, or?
Well, we can stay in the current state indefinitely. Of course, right now is not really such a great time to ask for people's attention, because there are all these other things going on with readjusting your life and all that. I think it makes sense to have a little bit more time added, but I also think that maybe by the end of the month we should decide whether we can ship it now.
Yeah. So yeah, I started doing the Shepherd review, by the way. So I'm gonna wait for the next version to finish that, and then we can ship it. You say end of this month. Does that sound good, or any other opinions? Is that too late?
This is Hank. I don't think that is too late. I think the argument of we are in a prolonged session frame right now, and having the other turmoil in the world is a good justification to have this month. I think that is very appropriate.
Okay. Also, I wanted also to say that considering the few comments we got, yeah, I mean, waiting a week or two more doesn't hurt, but might not get many more comments anyway. And yeah, and also one thing I noted in the data tracker is that the responsible AD right now is none. If I'm not wrong. So
You are wrong. Yeah, if you go to the About page, Barry is our responsible AD.
at the About, yes. By the way, welcome Barry, and thank you for being our responsible AD, and thank you Alexei for all your work.
Nice to be back. You mean
Yeah.
responsible AD for the document or for the working group?
I meant for the document.
Oh,
I saw that you are for the
that's
working
fine.
group.
I'll change that.
Okay. Yeah, I assume it was you, but you know, it just doesn't say.
Publish yet. That's why there is no responsible AD.
Ah, okay. The mysteries of the data tracker. Get it. It sounds good to me.
The responsible AD gets filled in as soon as an AD touches it. So if you request publication, then it fills it in.
Okay.
Until then, if I flag it as AD is watching, it'll get filled in. But I don't generally watch the documents until they come to me. So
No, that's fine.
it's fine.
So according to this discussion, expect to see CBOR base coming to you by the end of April, if nothing was wrong.
Thank you.
Great.
So
Then
comparing to 8152 BIS, how much lag do we have?
you mean delay according to milestones?
Yeah, I think these essentially should be in a cluster.
Aha. I don't know that.
Maybe Jim does.
8152 BIS is going to area directors as soon as the Shepherd report is written.
Okay, so we are not that much behind. Maybe half a month or so. Great. Okay. Is Mike here? Okay.
Doesn't seem to be.
Well, so I make a impromptu slide, which is a bit empty at the moment. So there was a request to have a date tag. We have several time tags, but we don't have a way to identify a whole day. You cannot identify a whole day with a time tag because depending on time zone, it may be a different day in different parts of the world. So you really need a different tag. So we now have Mike's tag, which is RFC 3339 based. So it essentially looks like this. And there's also the older idea to do an epoch-based one. And actually, Was it tag number 100? I forget, but it's a lowercase d. Which would have days since the Unix birthday. So days since 1970 or 101, which is essentially an offset version of MJD. So one could argue whether this should be an MJD, but MJDs are not exactly well understood by implementers. So maybe just doing this offset by 40,000 something, so it starts at the Unix date doesn't make a big difference. So these are out there. And the question really is, because these are so fundamental, is what do we want to do about those? And I have argued against using a 1+1 tag for the datetime, but this is not really a strong opinion, because of course a day number is really short. It often will be a 2-byte number, so the whole thing is pretty compact. So this might be a good reason to do that. So when we discussed this on the mailing list, there briefly was an idea to merge the two drafts. And then, of course, the question is, do we maybe have a single tag for both? We haven't done that with tag 0 and 1. So we have tag 0 for text-based times and tag 1 for epoch-based times. So that would be a change, but it would be a change we could make. So I think we should think about this for a short while. And so far, I think the tendency on the mailing list was to do the same thing we did with 0 and 1, and just have two different tags. So the outcome would be to have a 1+1 for epoch and 1+2 for text-based. And that would be those two numbers, 100 and 1004.
So this is Hank. I am absolutely in favor of creating tags for things that are used on a daily basis, so to speak. So I am fine with distinguishing these two via tags because it's just simpler. But I am very confused by the term epoch-based, but because if 2020 or 5 or 8 does not have an epoch, what is 011? So that's probably the epoch of that day-based counter. The start of the common era is probably also an epoch. And this is apparently an epoch-based day counter. Having said that, I am okay with calling it, I don't know, text-based and epoch-based, although it's probably not right.
We don't have to give it a name.
Yeah, but okay, you refer to them like this. So okay,
yes, because everybody does.
Like yeah, so that's what everybody does exactly. For common usage and for daily usage, again, it's okay to reference them somehow, and that's fine. And as long as this doesn't tamper with precision time tags, I'm totally d'accord.
Okay, and the other things that are related to this are the time of day and the time zone. So Jörg's original proposal, apart from having the date, would have a time of day tag. He proposed tag number 116. I'm not sure that is still free. And time zone tag. So you could essentially take apart an RFC 3339 style date, time, and into 3 different components. The time of day, it's pretty clear what you would do there. Seconds since midnight. And the time zone would probably be an IANA time zone designator. Oh, we just got a message from Mike.
Sorry, on list or in call?
Francesca, did you get that mail? Mike just said he will have an updated date tag draft published this week. Okay.
We also agreed on merging yours and Mike's document last interim, right? And add your as author.
Well,
Is
did
that
you say merging your or merging Jörg's?
merging your? I think I thought that was your document and Mike's document.
So my document is quite different.
Different. Okay, so that was then Jörg's suggestion. Yeah. Okay. So that would be the update.
Yeah. So we don't have to discuss every tag allocation here in the working group, but I think this is important enough for day-to-day work, as Hank said, that we should get this right. So essentially, at this point, I would say let's just wait for what Mike is coming up with. Okay, so I think we can just wait for Mike's new version on this one. And then there is this time tag, which has been around for a while, and actually is being used in implementations these days. The tag 1001 is being used in implementations. And this was just meant to be a more sophisticated version of tag 1 and provide some extensibility, which tag 1 doesn't have. And one question was whether maybe at some point we want to adopt this so we can handle the whole thing in one go. Or what is our strategy here? Because I can continue working with Hank on this in my spare time and eventually complete it because the tags are already registered. But maybe we want to have a common strategy here.
So this is Hank as additional input on this. 3 weeks in average, I received the question, how do I create a timestamp? And I'm sick and tired of explaining the whole thing. And that is this is good work. I mean, seriously, people might like be confused a little bit about it at the very first beginning because we already have these tags, yada yada. But no, a timestamp is a global, usable, and interoperable timestamp is not easy. Clocks are bad. They function not very well. They drift. They have the timing of some global actions like I don't know, revocation or whatever. That's a very poor example, I know. is important to time well. Otherwise, there are windows, and then things get messy, and all of this. And we have a lot of timing constraints if we go with long, very long tubes that reach to other planets. Then suddenly timing becomes very important. And so I think all this work we aggregated here is very useful, but not for the everyday use, so to speak. Some people have a very big requirement for this, and a lot of people are just like, well, might be overkill, but it is not, let me assure you. So that's my additional comment to this. So we aggregated a lot of attributes for time, a representation here, reference points of linear time, and for example that. And so I'm giving back the words to Capo. Floor.
Yeah, so these are the things that could be added at some point. There are other things like precision and so on that could be added. So I think this should simply be handled based on whether people come in and ask for how do you represent eggs in CBOR. So people have already been asking about timescales. They haven't been asking about precision, as far as I know. So yeah, this could evolve for a while, but we could also decide at some point to ship it as an RFC. Or what we also could do, by the way, is generate a document that combines a number of useful tags and describes them, so we don't get 50 RFCs on tags, but just a single one that is a little bit like an index of RFCs of tags that go beyond RFC 7T49.
Does our AD have any opinion about this?
Not right now, no. Yeah, let me review this and think about it.
So the thing is, I personally would think that having multiple RFC is easier rather than one document that is summary of tags. Interesting tags document. Also for expandability, but I don't know what I'm not. I don't have a strong opinion on this either.
Yeah, I mean, my general preference is to consolidate things in one place, but there are good reasons to split it. So I don't know. Let me review the discussion and.
Also, because like we can have an interesting tags right now, but hopefully or likely more tags will be added to it.
Yeah, we could just come up with a rhythm. We publish it every 5 years, and yeah,
That's a way.
Absolutely serious. And in the time between, it would live as a BIS document, and we could register tags against the BIS document. So we don't have to publish this every 6 months or so. But having it in an editorially stable, useful way without 1,000 places where people have to pull some descriptions that all differ in their editorial style and so on, that would be a useful service to the community, I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
How many documents will this draft have?
How many?
Comment authors.
Well, who wants to work on this? Of course, it would have a ton of contributors. all the people who registered something that qualifies as interesting.
Right. If you're talking about a working group document, it's up to the working group to assign an editor, and that's not necessarily the person who came up with the text. It's just the person who's responsible for keeping the document up to date.
Yeah, that is true. So, but we have a certain feasibility threshold here. While I am full support of the ideas that are currently in the document, apparently, I would always wage the additional content that would be the BIS periods that we are just discussing as an idea. Does that reach that threshold? Does this validate the feasibility of having a new tech here? And yes, I think I would agree with Barry. First of all, not to splinter and scatter this around. That makes things very hard to read and actually to find. Maybe you overlook it. That would be like confusing. So very on that side of point of view. I think that an aggregate is a good thing, and having that aggregate as a living thing, if that is a real stable and reliable possibility as this iterative biz that we plan actually to do, I'm absolutely fine with that. If that works, I don't know if that works, but it sounds like a feasible approach that we could explore.
Point taken, and I agree with you. And on everything you said, including if that works. So we have to maybe think a bit, will that work? But otherwise, I agree with you.
It's always feasible to plan to do these updates. And then it's also the working groups get busy with other things and don't have the interest in keeping it up, or the working group gets disbanded at some point and there's nobody keeping it up. So it's never going to be a complete reference, but having one place to go to look for these things and have it updated periodically is a good plan. It's worth thinking about.
So we have 3 minutes left. I don't think we have time to talk about CDDL freezer document today, Carsten.
Right.
Maybe let's move that for the next interim. That's okay?
Yes.
Anything more you wanted to quickly add for this, or we continue the discussion in the main list?
So just maybe people could read the section 4 of the freezer document before the next meeting, and we could have an informed discussion what we want to do with this.
Noted. Section 4, the CDDL freezer. Yes, then I think we can wrap up here. So we have a bunch of action item in the minutes. Thank you, Jim, for taking the minutes. And we will be meeting in 2 weeks at the same time, using the same WebEx. Anything you want to add, Jim?
No, I'm fine.
So if there is nothing else, I think we can close the meeting. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye-bye.